All right. So
I had to make you look pretty.
That ship has sailed.
let's get started with this. Could you just state your names and then tell us your birthday and today's date? Tell us how old you are.
You go first, you're older.
Oh, just because you don't know the date.
I do so.
Okay, what is the date?
Today is March 20.
See, you don't.
27th.
We better check this out. I don't think it is.
Could be the 26th.
I think it's the 26th. Look, see,
Okay,
March
26th.
26th.
Okay, you go.
What year?
2025. It was a very good year, as I recall. So I'm Tim Topel.
Timothy Lee.
Timothy Lee Topel. I was born June 5th, 1960, and that was on a Sunday, as I recall.
As you recall?
As I recall. Yes.
In
I missed church the very first day.
Highland,
Oh, in Highland Park,
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, there you go.
USA.
These are important things.
North America. Earth. Milky Way.
Okay.
And Mom?
Wendy, Sonia, Carolyn. My maiden name was Van Breda. Now I'm
That's a
Topel.
mouthful if I've ever heard of it before.
Now I'm a Topel. My birthday is December 13th, 1960.
Oh, you're
I have
an old one.
no idea what day of the week that was.
Well, you should know these things.
I don't.
Here, we can do some
I
investigation.
don't. And I was born in a hospital in Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
What day of the week was 12/13/1960?
It was Tuesday, December 25th.
I was born on a
12:12.
Tuesday. In case you're
Wait
going
a
to
minute,
notice.
wait a minute.
Well,
That's not right. That's
No.
2012.
2012,
And
December
that's December
25th.
25th.
That's still up for debate.
Your grandfather or whoever is watching this loves to talk to his phone.
You want to go there first?
At the Watermelon Follies at Concordia University in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
It was Concordia College back in the day.
Okay.
how old were you when you met?
I was
17.
18.
And so this would have been 1978?
Fall of 78.
78. 1978. Fall.
All right.
Those were games just for freshmen when they came, trying to get us to meet other freshmen so we would know people. So it was dorm against dorm. And then from there on, you had to find a partner. So I turned to the person in front of me. That person had already had a partner. So I turned to the person behind me who also didn't have a partner. And here he is.
That's my line. I turned to the left. That person had turned to her left. Then I turned to the right, and you were looking very desperate.
I was in a foreign country. I was a little overwhelmed.
Well, yes.
We had an egg toss
Okay.
with a real egg.
Who lost?
We did pretty good. We made it pretty far, but yeah, I dropped the egg.
Oh, okay.
It was a great toss. 45-degree angle, came
But
in
then at
softly.
the end of that, he did ask me to the square dance the next night.
Oh.
And then you inadvertently forgot about your rings that I had taken so that they would not destroy the egg.
That's right, I gave you my rings because I didn't want him to destroy my egg, and then I forgot them, and he had them.
Was this an accident? Or you
It really,
intentionally
really
forgot?
was.
Okay.
That's what she says now. I don't believe it.
It's very sophisticated play. just to
She was
see you.
testing my integrity, whether
I
I would
really
take
forgot them. I grew up in this little town. We just trust people.
All right.
And
So,
what little town did you grow up in?
I said that earlier, Elmira, Ontario,
And where is that located?
where we are right now recording this.
And where is that?
Southern Ontario.
Canada?
I said that
North
already.
America?
I said that already. Earth. Yeah.
Earth?
Yeah, we're all good. Milky Way.
See, we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
And you were a foreign alien
I was.
for many, many years.
I
Let's be
was.
honest about this.
I was. I came to Concordia to look for an American
With a green card.
so I could get a green card.
Yeah, a rich one.
Yes.
just to be clear, that's not actually how this happened,
No,
right?
it is
Okay.
not.
What do you
So-
mean that's not how it happened?
I did get my American, but that wasn't my goal to be here. My goal was to work in the church.
As I remember, you wanted to name her first son Richard.
I did not. I did not.
That way, after all those years, you would have had a rich American.
I did not. Do not listen to him.
Like yesterday.
It was the square dance would have been our first date, right?
Are you
The
sure?
square dance.
What about the movie?
That was in that whole weekend,
I
wasn't it?
know the movie occurred first. I
This,
suspect.
this was all in the one weekend.
Yes, freshmen got there first, and then
And then after that, it would.
yeah,
No socialization was encouraged.
school hadn't started yet.
I think we went to the movie first. Think about it.
I don't
Movie
know.
Friday night, square
what-
dance on Saturday night.
What movie?
Maybe.
All the President's Men.
Men,
Men.
all the president's men. I had no clue what was happening. I didn't grow up in this country. It meant nothing to me.
It was a story about Watergate.
Yeah, Watergate. All I knew is when Watergate came on TV, it just destroyed what we were watching here in Canada for some American thing that took place that didn't even pertain to us.
Oh, too bad.
And then we had to sit through a movie. I was lost.
Interrupted your soap opera and everything.
It did.
Yeah, I tell you,
I
life
know.
was tough back
It was.
So
in Canada at the time.
the first date was the movie or the square dance?
Yeah.
It was a movie.
Okay. It was the movie. You want to see All the President's Men? Did you hold hands on the first date?
I think you did put your arm around me in the movie theater.
I think I did.
I think you did. And I think we may have held hands back walking back to the door.
I think we probably did.
Yeah.
You guys are fast movers.
Hey, I had to get a green card.
Time's a ticking.
Do you remember?
I do. Do you remember?
I remember
Where were we at the time?
taking a walk around Seward.
On what street?
Oh, I don't remember the name of the street. Do you remember the name of the street?
It was our street that the apartment was on.
Coulterman?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
And what happened? You took a walk?
Well, you
That
gotta
went to
set
tie a shoe down, like-
you gotta set the mood.
Oh, please do.
So we knew we wanted to get married before we went to Seward. But we also knew my dad would have a lot of questions. And I had never been to Seward. So we needed to find out how did married student housing work because we were going to get married before we graduated. So we needed to know how much was it going to cost. All of these things my dad would want to know. So we went there, we found out the married student housing situation, how much it was going to cost
How
us.
much was it gonna cost us?
I think our rent was $145 a month,
That's what I thought too.
and that included our electricity and our water. We had to pay the heat, but our electricity and water, laundry was free there.
I don't think I included electricity.
You don't think you
I
did?
don't think so.
Okay.
Because we kind of rationed our electricity, didn't
We
we?
rationed everything.
And if it would have been free electricity, we would have had it on it.
We had a $1 a meal plan.
So
For the both
$3 a
of you.
day. Oh, yes. Macaroni and cheese was
We-
33 cents a carton.
A box. That's what it was. Yeah,
That's a tight budget.
it was.
So, Grandpa, well, your dad wanted to know all of this before you got married.
So then we got all of our little knowledge together, and then we drove back home. September,
school.
skipped a day of school on that Friday, drove all the way up to Detroit, didn't tell our parents we were coming.
Did we leave on the Thursday or the Friday?
We left
I'm
the
not sure.
Thursday night.
Thursday?
after class because we drove through the night
From Nebraska.
from Seward.
Yeah,
Because we arrived at your house in the middle of the night,
right.
and his parents didn't wake up or anything.
Well, they didn't know you were coming.
Well, you would think if you hear someone breaking into your house, you would wake up.
Didn't have to break in. You knew where the key was.
So you just showed up in a bed the next morning?
I did, and he was laying on the couch in the living room. I slept in his room, and his mom got up, and he's like, "Morning, Mom," and she ran back to the bedroom, and she goes, "Tim and Wendy are
She couldn't believe it. She literally took my dad's arm and pulled him down the hallway. Look, they're here. They're here. And my dad said, "You're full of it. You're full of wind," I think.
That's what he said. You're full of wind.
No, they're really here.
So then we went and picked out our rings with your friend Ed. He worked at a jewelry place.
How about George?
George Schimmel, that's what it was.
This trip, though, to see Grandma and Grandpa Topel, was that
15
after you had
hours trip.
proposed?
Yes.
Okay, so the proposal happened in front of the apartment.
Yep.
Then you took the trip just to tell your parents
And get permission. So then,
after it already happened.
yes.
Okay, so the proposal was already done. You were getting permission for.
Well, I was young. I was 18.
You were 18 when the proposal happened.
19 when we got married. I was 20. I was 19. I was 19 when the proposal happened. 20 when we got married.
Okay.
You were 21.
So you dated for about 2 years,
17 to 19. Right.
or 18 to 20 for
Yeah.
the senior.
The senior of the couple. And then we drove
Just
up.
like
We
you
picked
know-
out our rings. Then we drove up to Canada. The only one that knew was my sister,
Which one?
I think Wilma. And then we got to my parents' house and they were celebrating my dad's birthday. You've never seen a house clear out so fast, have you?
Like cockroaches when you first turn a light.
I mean, literally,
Oh, bye. Oh, bye.
the house cleared out like it was, I've never seen anything like it. And then we talked to my parents, and Dad did want to know how we were going to afford
I
this.
think they suspected something was coming by then.
Well, they suspected in the summer when they invited your parents to come up, they thought that was the perfect time for us to tell them. But we knew what we needed to do because we didn't have all of our answers.
So they were kind of ready for you to propose before you did.
They were expecting it the summer before we went to.
So when the two of you showed up unannounced, everyone knew what was up. And
I
that's
think
why they
so.
Cleared.
Yes.
All right. I'll have to get another side of that story at some point.
Yep.
how'd the
Diana will be able
conversation-
to help you.
How'd the conversation go then?
How'd the conversation go? We were sitting in the back room,
I think my parents were like, we thought you were going to do it this summer.
and your dad said, "Can you afford it?"
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We knew exactly how much rent was going to be and how much I had on hand. And
Yeah.
when I told him he wouldn't have to be responsible, I think he says, "Whew, that's a good thing." He didn't actually say it, but you could tell.
Let's start with Dad. Dad, how did you know that you wanted to marry Mom before you proposed?
She was available.
Our kids are going to look back on this and say, oh my gosh.
Is that what you're thinking right now, son?
I thought there was a little more than she was available.
Seemed to be the right one. She had a nice smile. Wasn't her brains.
No. No, it wasn't.
She came out of the one test saying, like, I failed that test. I'm thinking B minus.
I was fair. I never hit anything. You were
passed.
very good for me.
You passed.
You were very good for me.
Is that what it was for you? You just felt like he complimented what you needed?
He was very good for me. He was very kind. He was, I thought he was pretty handsome.
Well, I was.
He was a Christian, Lutheran. That was important for me.
It's
And your
important to
parents,
Mom.
too.
It was important for my mom.
Oh, he's a Lutheran? Oh!
His dad's a Lutheran school teacher. Uncle Johnny can tell you because he was listening on the other end to that conversation.
You didn't go to Concordia to meet boys.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a Lutheran school teacher, son.
Bring him home.
All right, so we got the proposal. The wedding itself, was that stressful or
Yes.
low-key?
Yes, it was stressful.
What made the wedding stressful?
Your mother.
Immigration.
Your mother.
Immigration.
Your mother.
Immigration.
Your mother.
We had written a letter to how it was supposed to work. How are we supposed to, because I was in the United States on a student visa, and that would change being married, even though I was still going to be a student for a year. So you had written a letter to your senator, your congressman.
Well, the problem is, in order to complete the application, they needed proof of marriage. With a wedding license. Well, if you don't have a wedding license, how can you complete the application? So it's like, how do we do this? And
Finally, we were one of the people told us that we would have to get married in the United States.
it was my dad. I thought that was a good idea.
And then have a reception and tell people at the reception that we had to get married ahead of time.
But that's not what you did, right?
It is not what we
ended
did.
up not being
It wasn't
making a
true.
difference.
It didn't make a difference. So we did have to go, after the wedding, we did have to go to the American consulate and apply for a green card. And that was a little bit of a fiasco.
So on Monday morning after our wedding, we were married on Friday. We went to the American consulate, tried to get there right away, got a number, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. And we waited some more. Finally, I bet if we were there at 8 o'clock, it was like noon, if not even later. We finally were invited into the office of this female. That's told us
That wore
we
her
should've-
glasses like this.
and we should have had this all done already.
Should have all been done.
And
So
that you would have to go back.
I'd have to go to
Canada,
Canada,
and I
stay in
have to
Canada.
stay-
He would have to go back to the US, and we would have to wait months for all of this to get cleared.
And then you start crying.
I did.
And she left the room.
And then in came this very nice man, and we met with the consulate, the actual consulate, and he said, well,
I don't know if that's who that was.
if you can get all of this accomplished in 3 days, and he gave us a list of what had to happen, then I think we can get this
So
done.
what things were there?
I needed to have
X-ray.
a chest x-ray.
To show that you were not carrying TB.
Yep. I needed to have
A statement signed by my parents that you weren't going to be awarded the state.
a financial burden to the state,
You had to have a doctor.
passport photos, and I had to be seen by a doctor,
Right.
appointed by them. And we needed a marriage license.
Right.
Well, there was a mail strike, so nobody knew if we could get a marriage license in time, because here in Canada, you can do a reading of banns, and that is still considered a legal way of a marriage, that it's announced so many weeks prior to the wedding, and then it's printed in the bulletin, and that's all that was needed back in the day. We did go for a marriage license. Pastor put that in the mail on Friday,
I think so, yeah.
the day we were married. Well, there's no mail in Ontario on Saturday. We needed it by Thursday when we had our appointment at the consulate. So everything was an uphill battle from the very beginning. The passport photos. Well, now everything's digital, but back in the day it had to be developed. So we had to go in Waterloo, we went to a photography place. Oh, it'll be ready in a week. Well, I need it by Wednesday. It's Monday, I need it Wednesday. Or I don't know. The time frame was 3 days.
I think it was Friday that we had our
Okay.
appointment, I think.
So we were hoping and praying that it would be at the records office in Toronto, the marriage license.
But they were also talking about a
strike.
strike for the postal in Canada.
Right. We went and I had the chest x-ray at the hospital, and she said it'd be ready in a week, and I said I need it I need it on Thursday. She said, well, if you're willing to drive to London, Ontario, pick it up at the lab, do the results of the lab yourself, but you can't open it. It has to come to the doctor sealed. I had an appointment with the doctor that the immigration had appointed. So we had everything we needed. Your parents had to come back up. They had just gotten back from the wedding. His parents had to drive back up. And I had to have an interview with the American consulate and pass the interview. So we had everything we needed. I took everything to the doctor. The doctor never looked at me. The doctor just opened up the paperwork, signed it off, and that was it. I don't think he even knew if I was purple or polka dotted. And then we took everything we needed. Your parents were sitting behind me. They signed a paper that I wouldn't be a financial burden. And we sat down, and he looked at all the paperwork. Oh, I had to get a letter from the police.
Which we already had.
Which we already did. We did have that.
From Ann Arbor and from Seward.
And from Kitchener-Waterloo that I didn't have a record. I hadn't been arrested. I wasn't a felon. And then we brought everything before the consulate. And then he asked, my one interview question was, do you go to any Cornhusker games? And I just said, well, that state really loves their football. I said, the whole city shuts down when they play football, but no, I've not been to a Cornhusker game. And he looked at us and he goes, I'm from Kearney, Nebraska. I know exactly where Seward is. I know where Concordia Teachers College is. And he stamped it and he said, welcome to the U.S.
Well,
it was 7 years before Matthew came.
but
Did you always want kids?
Yes,
So that was
how many
part of the plan
miscarriages
from the
did you go through?
2.
So yeah, we can skip ahead to that. So we had 2, both before me.
Yep.
Okay. Was that tough?
Yeah.
Very tough.
Don't want to dwell on it too much, but you know, we went through that with
Yeah, you
before
did.
or after Hannah. And
Yeah.
Hannah might go through that one day, and it's good to know.
It is. It is, and there's a reason. There was a reason for both. Yeah. I knew I always wanted to be a mom, always.
Yeah. Was that the same for you, Dad?
Sure, I always picture myself with the children.
All right. So you had wanted kids. How did you know that you were ready for kids?
Clock's a ticking.
Very practical answers here. How'd you know it was the right woman? She was available.
I don't know how we knew it was time. We were in our home. I always pictured that home, what room would be the nursery. God kind of led us in that way that it was time. And then when it didn't happen, it was like, then you question, is it really time? Obviously, it wasn't the right time. But yeah.
So part of it was the home, that you had a home and a place and a room.
Yep.
Was that the home on Camel Street?
That was the home on Camel. Yep. When we first came, we first taught in Baltimore, Maryland, and we were there for 3 years. Then we came to Michigan. We lived with your parents till that. We lived in their basement from August until January. Then we moved in the St. Thomas's one parsonage. It was empty, available. They didn't want any rent. We just were to maintain the home and pay the utilities. So we stayed in that home and that allowed us time to look for a home. We weren't in a rush or pressure. Plus our home in Baltimore didn't sell.
Right, that was a big thing.
And then at the same time, Dad was at Northwest in Farmington Hills, and there were some legal issues with the city of Farmington Hills and the high school association. Looking back, you can see God's hand in everything. Once all the legalities had cleared out and it was decided that the high school was not going to stay in Farmington Hills, property was purchased for the new Lutheran Northwest, and Westland was purchased. And then right after that, our house sold. Everything just fell into place. Otherwise, we probably would have purchased closer to Farmington Hills. Yeah.
And we purchased our house based upon an idea where the high school was going to be built, but they had not yet begun
to build it.
build until after we bought the house.
So
you purchased the house with kids in mind, at least.
Kids in mind, and where the high school was possibly being, and we were still worshiping at St. John. So we kind of.
So it was about 10 minutes to the high school. Well, no, about 10 miles to the high school, and it was, I don't know, 8 or 7.
Yep, to St. John.
So it ended up being a good location for.
And we knew I didn't want to work once we had kids, so we had some money set aside that we thought it would be fine, that I could stay home. It was a hot summer of '88. And
I had just completed my night class the day before, didn't I?
Yes.
And I came home with less than a quarter of a tank of gas.
Yes.
And weren't not planning on having your arrival the next day.
You weren't due till July 3rd. And you came. I went into the hospital. You finally arrived on June 25th, but I went in on June 23rd.
So took a while.
It was a long labor. And hot. Oh my gosh, was it hot that summer. Even the spring was hot.
Was the hospital air conditioned?
Yes.
Okay.
But it was hot.
Yeah.
And windy. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you looked outside and you thought you could be outside and enjoy the breeze. And then afterwards I went outside and it was like sticking your head into an oven. It was so hot. It was breezy, but it was so hot. It was 104 that day.
The day you were born was 104.
So Mom had a long labor. Dad, were you allowed to be in the delivery room?
No. I was allowed to be in the delivery room, but they told me eventually go home, get a good night's sleep, so I did.
And left me at the hospital. I just wasn't progressing. And after 2 days, I still wasn't progressing. So they decided to do an emergency.
You had a temperature.
Then I got a fever. I had an infection. And then they did an emergency C-section. But Dad was there for the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Were you there for the C-section?
Mm-hmm.
Did you look at the C-section or not?
Tried not to.
When we took the classes together and they got to the C-section part, Tim is like, oh, Dad, we're not going that route. That's more than I can handle. And then there we were. You did not like going to the baby classes.
No, they were not the fun.
No. It's a weird feeling because all of a sudden you don't know what you're doing. They send you home with this baby and there's no manual and you really realize you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I got him. I wanted him. And now what?
Did you, when we took Hannah home, we had to have a car seat.
We did too.
Okay. So
But we didn't have a car seat.
So how'd you get?
The hospital. We loaned one from the hospital. We had a car seat, but not an infant seat, and they wouldn't let us take Matthew home. We were on some plan with the hospital for an infant seat. We did not have one. He didn't fit in it. Don't you remember? They brought the hospital seat to our room. We did not have one for an infant. We were not prepared. Everything else we had ready. You finished the change table while I was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So you had to go to the NICU. You weren't breathing normally. So you had to go to the NICU for a little bit. And I had an infection. So they kept us in there for a few days. And Dad and Grandpa finished your change table. We kind of had it worked out. So I would go to bed. You were very regulated with your eating. You know, the book said every 4 hours. You were every 4 hours. And the doctors, told us how much to give you, so we did. Nursing didn't work because I think it was because I had an infection. I couldn't feed you. it just didn't work. So you were bottle fed, and I would take the feeding at like 9 o'clock, and then Dad would stay up with you and try to get as much into you as you can around 11 o'clock. So you would maybe sleep until 2, right?
Something like that.
But I took the night feedings because he was working. I was staying at home with you.
Actually, it was the summer.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, you wanted to send him back home.
Yeah. Your question was, when he had been home for 1 or 2 days, was, when is his mom picking him up? Because I babysat other children for a little extra money, and you were wondering when he was going home.
You were really excited when he arrived, though, because we had bought a baseball bat and a ball for you, and we had it underneath our bed, and you found it. And we told you that's when your brother comes along. And so when we called and said you had a brother, you said, now do I get my baseball and my bat? You're like, yep. So
it was good. You were a very easy baby. I don't remember it being a real tremendous hardship. You know, I didn't have the stress of having to get back to work. If you didn't sleep well at night, you know, well, I could make that time up at home. Our days were easy. I didn't have a car. I wore out the wheels on the stroller. Going for walks. Dad was coaching. So I walked with you boys everywhere. To the meat market, Messina Meats.
Oh, yeah, I remember Messina's.
Yeah, and they always gave you a slice of cheese when I came in. So everything was the Hostess store. Mm-hmm. All of that was close to us. The park, we spent a lot of time at the park. So yeah.
knew we needed to get more money again, honestly.
Money was tight. It was time to go back. And part of it was, would I have liked more? Yes. But I needed to go back to work. Yeah.
Like you needed to go back for yourself or financially?
Financially.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before then, you had kind of survived on the nest egg that you had built pre-kids,
Mm-hmm.
and that had dwindled by the time. Mm-hmm. When did you go back to work?
You were in 4-year-old preschool, and we only paid for days that you could go because you were still getting treatments. So I wanted you to have the socialization that preschool can offer, but you were still getting treatments. So we only paid on the days you could go. If your white blood cell count was too low, you couldn't go. If there was chickenpox going through the classroom, you couldn't go. So we only paid on the days that you could go. I wasn't a preschool teacher, but there was an incident that happened that school year, and we ended up the last 6 weeks, and they needed a preschool teacher. So the last 6 weeks I filled in. You came to preschool with me. David came to preschool with me. He was only 2. Ooh. And then I did 4 mornings a week. And I finished out the last 6 weeks of preschool for you. And then when you were in kindergarten, I wasn't teaching yet. David was I stayed home for 5 years. So David's 3-year-old preschool and your kindergarten year, I came back on a part-time basis. I did 5 half days. 5 half days and 2 full days. Having someone with the same faith is huge. Someone that you can pray with, someone that you can talk with, be honest with. that you enjoy spending time with. Don't just compromise on those things. Those are things that are important.
That's good. Dad?
Have someone that really cares about you and respects you and loves you. I would say that too, in addition to what Wendy said. Do it exactly as we did. We were awesome. No, you got to communicate and you got to be on the same page together,
Yes.
and that's one thing we always did. Kids didn't appreciate it because it'd be like, well, we're going to talk about this, but you got to be on the same page.
And if you don't agree, do that in private, because your kids will know that you're not on the same page. They know that quickly.
And enjoy the time that you have with each step.
It goes fast. Those first few years doesn't feel like they go very fast, but they go fast.
Well, probably the one that I can relate to with what we talked about when we were coming back from the weekend where I had asked our parents for permission to get married. It was a long weekend, a lot of driving. Seward was 15 hours away, and then we had a 3.5-hour trip up to Canada.
In a stick shift car that I wasn't very good at driving.
So on the way back, by the time we left, it was late coming into Nebraska, and Wendy always had a great sense of direction, but she was kind of like fading off into sleeping and trying to stay awake for me and everything else. And it was cold out, so she just randomly said in the middle of this conversation, trying to stay awake, we could put our socks on our hands so that they don't get cold. I told her at that point, you can go to sleep. You've lost it.
But I saw the tower coming in the
She knew
distance,
exactly
and I'm
where
like,
we
we're
were,
getting off here.
at the
at
next
this-"
exit.
He would have sailed right by.
I probably would have, but that was before GPS, and so yeah.
When we first got to Baltimore, we had one car, so Tim would drop me off in the morning, and then he would go on to the Lutheran High School to teach, and then he would pick me up, or sometimes I would walk to these people that we referred to as moms and pops, and we would meet there. And I was so worried the first day that we did that he would never find me. Find his way to me, and I'd be there for days. But you did find me, but it was amazing how you, whew. But I was thinking the time that I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and I was so out of it. But I knew you were going the wrong way on the road. Like, we're going the wrong way. The best part was you believed me. And we did get home.
That's awesome. Thank you. Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you too.